welcome back to another edition of the Five Tool Podcast. I'm Dustin Mckennis, joined once again, as always, by Drew Bishop. And it's a big day for the Five Tool Podcast because we've got some pretty good sources suggesting that friend of the podcast, Bryce Elder, former Texas Longhorn Friday night ace, last year's Atlanta Braves minor league pitcher of the year. We've got some pretty good intel that he's projected to make his debut on the mound tonight for the Atlanta Braves against the Washington Nationals. Kind of a unique set of circumstances. You know, the Braves had to dip into a lot of their depth at the MLB level. Ian Anderson had a really short outing. Oscar Enoa had a short outing. They just used a lot of arms. They had to use Tucker Davidson yesterday, who was kind of projected to be their starter today. And because of the short spring training and the roster rules, the Braves can't call up somebody that's already on the 40-man roster. They have to use somebody that's not on the 40-man roster. And Bryce Elder is not yet on the 40-man roster, but he's ready to rock. It sounds like he's going to make his debut tonight. Just goes to show you, Drew, come on the podcast, good things happen. Hey, Max Muncy in the opening day lineup coming off that UCL injury. Boom.
Bregman was the AL player of the week.
Bregman, AL player of the week. That's right. Like, great things are happening to these pro guys that are coming on the podcast. Just saying, Mike Trout, if you want to get healthy and have a great year, come on the podcast.
Well, we also had another major league debut from a podcast guest. Katie Mckennis is now the dietitian for the Rangers. So
I did not know that.
Yeah, so she made her major league debut in Toronto, and it was funny. She said for opening day, they announced every single support staff member, and they were called out individually to go out to the line. Which, if you like, I can tell you I never wanted to go out to the line. Yeah. Like, never. So like a good support staff member, like, that's your absolute nightmare, because like you're so used to like it all everything you do is for the kids and the team and the coaches. So like that is like absolute worst case scenario. She said she was dreading it, but she also got to, make her home debut last night and got to meet George W. Bush pregame, got some pictures with him. So
awesome.
Yeah. So yeah, no, I mean, it's pretty simple. If you come on the podcast, you're going to have a good big league year. So
absolutely. Apparently so. You're just going to make the jump to the MLB level. And we'd have to ask her, because I saw a tweet that the Blue Jays fans, because like I guess because things were going on, they got introduced in Toronto, right? I saw a tweet that Blue Jays fans, because the process was so long, started booing the Rangers training staff as they came out. So we need to ask her if she got booed by the Toronto fans who were just wanted to boo something because it was going on so long. But really exciting. I mean, Elder, to me, like, I was a little surprised going back to draft time that he just didn't have more draft attention. And who knows, that was that 2020 shortened year.
Right. I
think he was going to throw the curveball way more that year. I remember talking to Sean Allen about it, and he was like, yeah, the analytics on it. It was like, on a per pitch basis, it was like his most effective pitch. They're going to throw that more. And he looked like he was going to have an All-American season that year. And I think it's a pretty good example that, like, things like TrackMan data and all that stuff really matter for a reason. But if you're too married to your model, you're going to miss the Bryce Elders of the world, the guys that can sink it, that can just flat out pitch, that have the mental makeup, all those sorts of things. And I was looking this morning, he's only thrown, because, he got drafted in 2020, so no season then. He's only thrown 137 professional innings at the minor league level, and just like already jumped from A to high A to double A to triple A last year by the end of the year, and was going to open in triple A this year. So shout out to him. Really exciting. I'm going to try to sneak in some innings while I can, while I'm at my game tonight with MLB TV on my phone, but really, really excited to see. He won't stay up there because he's not on the 40-man. But it's going to be cool to see him make his debut tonight. And a guy that
Yeah,
we both know a scout that drafted him who does like a phenomenal job in the area, and really excited for him because I'm sure that was the one that you've got to fight for a little bit. I think that was the year there were only 5 rounds in the draft, and again, you kind of look at the data and things like that, but I mean, Bryce Elder can just flat out pitch. He just really competes and can pitch.
Well, he was one of the last picks in the draft. Like,
yeah.
we really thought we were going to get him back. It was so
can you imagine that if you had Ty Madden and Bryce Elder in that rotation with Tristan Stevens and Pete Hansen? Holy moly, what a rotation that would have been.
Yeah,
you're right. It was super close because he stuck to his price, as he should have.
Yeah.
And the Braves ended up meeting the price. But really excited to see him debut. I took advantage of a little roster loophole also because so we normally have 5 bench spots in our fantasy league. Yeah.
And for our first 2 periods, we agreed, because a lot of times the CBS isn't super timely, and a lot of the teams aren't either super timely on adding guys to the injured list. And so what we did for this year is, for the first 2 periods, we allowed everyone to have 8 bench spots.
Mm-hmm.
So I picked him up for tonight. Like, he can't even pitch because I picked him up after the roster's locked for this period, but I'll probably have to drop him in the next couple of days, unless he just throws a no-hitter and they decide to keep him up or something, which, that would be fine too. But just to say that I had him for his debut on our fantasy roster, I wanted to do that. And I dropped somebody that I was going to have to drop anyways. So, worked out. So
a ceremonial add to the list. And unfortunately for him, I think Juan Soto is going to be in the lineup tonight, so that might be a little tough to deal with, but exciting nonetheless. Switching gears here, we saw some good stuff. You actually caught 2 games. I caught a game on Friday, the St. Pius the 10th game against Concordia Lutheran, but you saw a couple of heavyweight matchups. You saw who did you end up seeing? Southlake and who?
So Friday night I went and saw Heath and Prosper, and then Saturday I got to see Rockwall and Southlake. And I was, originally I had planned to see Mansfield Legacy and Flower Mound Marcus at DBU, but I was at the game. I was at the game Friday night and saw a scout that we know. And, I said, hey, what are you seeing tomorrow? And he said, I'm heading over to DBU to watch DBU play. And I was like, wait a minute. I was like, I thought my game was at 5. What time is the DBU game? And he said it was at noon. So I was like, well, I better check in on this. And they had to move the game to noon, and I just wasn't going to be able to make it. And, as a, quote unquote consolation prize, got to just head right down the street and see Rockwall and Southlake, which, worked out perfect. But
I'd say so. You get all these guys that just show up at your house. It must be nice.
Yeah, it is. It kind of evens it out. We go out to East Texas some, and after the drive out to Wolford to see Shores, get to even it out a little bit. But it was good. I got my first look at Harrison Rosar from Prosper, QB1 for the Eagles.
Nice.
And there's a lot to like there. He hasn't played as much baseball as some of the guys that we see, because of the football thing. And it was interesting too, because, he started off slow. Both pitchers did, him and Johnny Loafer. He started off slow and then really settled in in like what I would consider a all the way around ugly first 2 innings. Johnny Lowe was missing, just barely missing. He was putting the ball where he wanted, just wasn't where the umpire wanted it. But, and then Rosar made some big in-game adjustments and looked like a different guy by the end of it. Flashed 2 different breaking balls. Really got command of the breaking balls late, and it was tough. Like he threw some really good curveballs. And then got to see Trevor Tranberg come in and finish the game for Heath, and he was good. It was really good stuff. And, it was a bounce back from the last time I saw him, where he got pulled early in the big rivalry game. But man, his stuff was really good. He was up to 89, threw one really nasty slider, threw a couple other curveballs that were good. But a lot to like there. One guy that I really liked for Prosper that I hadn't seen as much was Brody Bushi, who's a senior. And man, out of all the guys in their lineup, and we know that lineup is chock full of really good D1 prospects and a couple of junior college guys, but he took as good at bats as anyone off Johnny Lowe. Had two hits in his first 2 at bats and just looked really comfortable against good stuff all night long. So I was impressed by him. Rosar's got a big future on the mound, especially if he keeps progressing. I think he's playing for the Tigers this summer, so he'll get a lot of exposure there. But yeah, a lot to like. There's definitely some growth that he'll fill out. And I think throw harder, he was up to 91. But good breaking ball, like I said, and a lot to like. Heath pulled out the win, man. They just keep manufacturing ways to win games. Jet hit a couple balls hard, ground out to third, hit one to third, caused an error, then stole second base promptly. He's just one of those guys that even if he doesn't put up a loud box score, just watching him move around and stuff, you can just tell he belongs on a field at a very high level. Yeah. So good to see that. The next day, got to see Rockwall and Southlake, like I mentioned. Coach Rose from Rockwall got his 400th win. So that was a big milestone and got to do it at home, which was nice always. Braden Randall, multiple hits, stole bases, played second. Andrew Tellia played short. Mac Rose caught, hit another home run. Pearson Reebok did a lot of little things really well, played a good center field. He was out in the outfield this time, laid down a good sacrifice bunt, got on base a couple of times. Just continues to do stuff. Really good. Impressed with him. Southlake, Ethan Mendoza hit a home run. Got a pretty, not a bad pitch. It was really, I can't even call it a mistake from Cade Crossland, but it was a good pitch. I think he wanted that one back, but Ethan got a breaking ball up in the air and just went out to left center. But Cade Crossland was really good. I think he ended up going 5 1/3, 5 2/3, and 2 runs against a loaded Southlake lineup. Who I will mention what they were missing Tyler White, who happened to be down at A&M for the spring game and actually ended up committing, as we've talked about him being a nationally known punter.
So he can really kick it.
So he wasn't there on Saturday, but there's just so much depth there with that Southlake lineup. And it, like I said, every time I've seen them play, they move guys around, bat different guys. I think Cade Crossland did a really good job keeping them off balance throughout the game. Just kind of, for lack of a better term, put them to sleep. Like you just look up and it's the 4th inning and they had nothing at that point. And Rockwall got jumped out to a big 8-0 lead, and then Southlake scored a couple late, but held on for the win. But yeah, it was interesting. There's a lot of guys from Rockwall that move around quite a bit. Speaks to the athleticism, and those non-district Saturday games a lot of times are good ways to experiment, get some depth, and when you have guys that are that versatile, you can do a number of things, and you're not hurt as much if someone goes down or has to miss some time. But another guy who's just been on fire lately for Rockwall, Tyler Rollins. His first 3 at bats, he smoked a single, smoked another single, and then hit a bomb. This is a senior that's having a good season, and just that's funny because they got some guys up and down the lineup that can really do some damage. And I've seen some of those guys hit the bottom of the lineup, and I've seen them hit higher in the lineup. So there's a lot of, like I said, a lot of flexibility, not only on the offensive side for Rockwall, but on the defensive side too.
Yeah, it seems like there's a clear tier of teams in the state at the 6A level that, like, I don't know if there's like a stand out like this team is better than everybody else in the state, but there's a tier of teams that just seems like up and down the lineup. There's just guys all over the place. There's versatility. There's guys coming off the bench that can do stuff. There's guys coming out of the bullpen. They're like, man, this guy would be an ace on a bunch of other high school staffs. And Rockwall is like that. Heath is like that. Southlake is like that. It seems like Prosper is like that. I know, when I saw Lake Travis down here, they're kind of like that. Tompkins kind of has that vibe as well. Like, I don't know if there's a clear top team in the state, although I think Tompkins is probably the consensus maybe right now. Although I could have swore I saw the coaches poll come out today and Heath might have been ahead of him. I have to go look at that. But there's just like a bunch of teams that just have a lot of really good players. And like you said, there's oftentimes some senior guys will jump in the lineup that you don't really know much about. And all of a sudden they're kind of doing their thing. And sometimes those guys can get overlooked a little bit in the process, just because some of these teams just have so many players that the Saturday games are great because you typically might not play all those guys during the district schedule during the week, because you're obviously just trying to win those games. But Saturday affords those coaches opportunities to get more guys out there and get some looks at them.
Yeah, no doubt. And like you said, going back to the senior thing, like there's a lot of guys that there's still a lot of guys out there. And there's spots for some of those guys. So, those guys just keep on coming and keep playing well. And, all you got to do is be seen in the right time, right place once. Hoping, and, I know hopefully we can help some of those guys get seen by putting some video out. Jeff and our video crew does such a good job with that. And I always love it when Jeff or some of the other video guys are at the games I'm at, just because for one, they're going to get so much better video, but then it allows me to kind of pay attention to some other stuff in the game and look for some of those intangibles and talk to some people in the stands and get some other, secondary info on guys. But yeah, I mean, it's amazing because it seems like everywhere you go, there's at least one or two of those guys. Like at Rock Hill, that shortstop that we like, Jack O'Pine. There's some interest there from some people. And, I'd never heard of him before we went out and saw him the first time. But I was like, this guy is uncommitted as a senior. I mean, but it's good because, they keep playing well through their senior year and they may increase their options. So, like we preach a lot, like don't be in a hurry and you don't necessarily need to take the first offer if it's not a place that you think you'll fit.
Yeah. So. Yeah. You've had better luck with the seniors than I have. I feel like every time I go, I'm like, oh man, like the catcher from the Woodlands I watched, I was like, this guy can flat out catch. Like, I mean, he's hitting 9th or 8th in the lineup. It's a good lineup. I was like, this guy can really catch, man. I wonder if he's, signed anywhere. And, St. Edward's had him locked up. I was like, man, it's a great job for that staff. So, the Eric Arcade kid, I was like, oh my gosh, this guy looks like a monster. And Cisco College had him. So I not as many diamonds down here in the rough per se as up there. But yeah, that's something that like every single time I go to a game now, I'm like kind of going through the lineup and stuff like that. And you always look for those guys, that deserve an opportunity to keep playing somewhere, because this state is just so big that there's guys. I mean, these programs sometimes will bring guys off the bench. Maybe there's an injury and this guy doesn't really play much, and all of a sudden he's doing some great things at a really big name program and kind of getting some exposure and things like that. But I went down on Friday to the Tomball area to get my first look at Concordia Lutheran, which pretty cool. You walk in that stadium and right now, they've got the kind of the big display for guys that have played there, and you see Shane Boz, Key Brian Hayes, and Glenn Otto. I mean, Otto made his MLB debut last year. I mean, Boz, we know, made his as well, and just looks like a phenom on the mound for the Rays. Hopefully he gets back on the mound soon. And then Key Brian Hayes today just signed his extension with the Pirates for 8 years and $70 million. And as a Pirates fan, totally fired up about that one because the guy is just a truly special talent. So it's pretty cool to go in there and see all those recent names up there at Concordia Lutheran. And who knows, might have watched a couple guys that might soon have their names on there in the future. And got to look at Sean Fitzpatrick from Concordia Lutheran, Arkansas signee, 5'55" guy. facing off against St. Pius and Casan Evans, who I'd seen before. But a really good pitching matchup that certainly delivered. Fitzpatrick kind of labored through the first inning, made one mistake, and uncommitted junior Austin Brown jumped on it and hit a 2-run homer out the left field. Brown, athletic short swing from Brown, just timed up the fastball really well and nearly hit a home run later in the game off another fastball, which he whiffed at a curveball, and then they came back to him with a fastball and he nearly hit it out of the yard. Again, I know that's a guy that's doing some good things for St. Pius. It's uncommitted right now. That's a junior. But once Fitzpatrick got to that first inning, the next 5 innings, he struck out 11 guys to those 5 innings. And the curveball it baffled guys. A lot of uncomfortable takes, uncomfortable swings. He started going to it more often. And, he's a near sidearm guy. It's a really low slot. But, typically you see those guys from the left side that have those low slots and they're throwing sweeping stuff or they're throwing sliders. But he throws one of those short curveballs. And I think the combination of the deception, the slot, the way it comes out of the hand, it kind of looks like a fastball initially. Guys just did not know what to do with it. And he just racked up strikeout after strikeout against St. Pius. Ended up throwing 6 innings, gave up 3 earned runs, 2 walks, and struck out 11. Fastball was up to 88. He mostly lived around 84 to 87. Didn't throw many changeups, but he threw some around 78 to 81 miles an hour. And he's really, really athletic. Quick arm, loose arm. I think that he's a guy that over time the velocity is going to tick up a little bit. The next step for him, I think, will be refining the fastball command, because he just doesn't throw hard enough to beat guys consistently right now. But man, that curveball, he threw it for strikes early, often buried it. I mean, guys just took really uncomfortable swings against it consistently. Quick worker. He's got some moving parts in delivery, but he's so athletic that he repeats it really well with no problem at all. Definite starter at the next level, I think, although he kind of gives a unique look. So maybe he's a guy that might pitch out of the pen for Arkansas initially, because he's going to throw strikes from the left side with the quality breaking ball. But in the battle of the pitchers, he was outdueled by Casan Evans, who, thinking ahead to the 2024 list, and it's going to be hard not to put this guy number 1 on the list. It's the second time I've seen him. Fastball was up to 93. He was still touching 91 in the 7th inning. And it was a different look this time, because when I saw him, the breaking balls, there are more 2 distinct ones. There was a very distinct slider and also a curveball as well. And this time it was kind of like a slurvy breaking ball, and he threw a couple that had true slider shape, but most of all was kind of a hard slurve type of pitch. And I think he was just manipulating the shape, and that's just kind of what he had a feel for. But fastball was really good again. Threw some changeups to lefties that got swings and misses, but he can just pitch. The velocity is going to grab the headlines because he's a sophomore throwing that hard. But late in the game, he started sinking the fastball against righties to that arm side and really executing that way. And it just allowed him to get so much more length on the mound. He ended up throwing a complete game shutout. Gave up just 2 hits, only walked 1, struck out 10. And this was a good Concordia Lutheran lineup. Had guys like Jax Traeger, Nolan Traeger, Alex Petrovic. I mean, Fitzpatrick hits in the 2-hole for them and is a high contact guy that's a good high school hitter. So not chopped liver that he was facing in that lineup, and he kind of mowed through there. And he made a fantastic defensive play coming off the mound, showed his elite athleticism, chased down a slow roller near the line on third base, did his best Derek Jeter impression with a jump throw across the diamond to get a guy. Just a really, really impressive play. And he's a special one. I mean, he's got the stuff, but he knows how to pitch well beyond his years. Typically you see guys that are his age and they might have the stuff, they might have the velocity, but they don't quite know how to pitch. And he goes out there and knows how to pitch. So really impressive stuff from him. And, watching Alex Petrovic move around, who's for Concordia Lutheran, he's committed to Auburn in the 2023 class, played shortstop for him. He's going to be a pitcher at the next level. And I was really impressed with just how he looked and moved physically. I didn't quite anticipate that because he's a taller guy with some length. moved around with some agility at shortstop, had some raw power in the batter's box. He's a guy I'm just really excited to see on the mound at some point, kind of hearing some things in the stands from people. It sounds like he's been up to 93 miles an hour recently. I think he could be a really, really big time guy in that 2023 class. And then Nolan Traeger, 2024 catcher, committed to TCU, threw out a runner trying to steal second base from his knees on a ball that he had to block. He nearly took Evans deep first at bat to dead center, and it was bat speed. It was loud. There's some hitting field there, but Evans made some adjustments and got the best of him the next two at bats. But looks like a guy that's going to be a major, major prospect in that 2024 class. A guy that could really, really hit and really, really hit with some power as well. So one of those games where, got an uncommitted guy doing some big things with the bat and kind of creating the separation. But the stars were the stars in that matchup, and both those arms lived up to the hype. My first look at Fitzpatrick and my second look at Evans.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about it and beat this dead horse all the time, but there's just you can find games anywhere. I mean, even, going to games that you're not expecting a big arm to show up, they start showing up.
Yeah.
Every single thing you go to, pick a game, and you're going to find someone that in this state that can play at the next level. I mean, it's just, it never ends. And that's what makes these things so tough to do when we sit down and make lists, because all these guys make jumps at different times.
Oh yeah.
And, they come out of nowhere. I mean, and sometimes, for a guy that, we're getting to the back half of the season, some of these guys have developed through the year. And if you would, Brody Bushi, like I said, I've seen prosper a handful of times, and, he didn't stand out the same way that he did on Friday, and so, it's just, it's what makes the scouting world tough.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also what makes it exciting too, because you never know, you can show up at just about any game in the Metroplex or the Houston area, and you're going to find some talent.
Yeah.
So, it's just something to look forward to, and what makes this job fun for sure.
And there's no replacement too for watching a game. I feel like, even with a lot of these guys where I have a pretty good base understanding for the talent level and stuff like that, there's still no replacement for watching them move and watching how they interact and watching how they compete and their movements in the batter's box and running and defensively. You can even pick up stuff about pitchers who aren't pitching, like Petrovic, this looks like a guy that's got more athleticism than I thought. That's going to help him on the mound. And, it's a video and stuff is great. But there's no replacement for seeing a guy in a full game, especially high school district games. It's just, everybody's trying to win. There's a different energy around it, different competitiveness level, but making out these schedules and these lists and stuff like that, it's tough because you're always going to miss something. But there's truly just no, I feel like I have so much of a better feel when I go see a guy, in a competitive game setting, as opposed to maybe just seeing some video clips or talking to people or whatever it is. You get a much, much better feel for the talent level and the skills and stuff like that. And like you said, there are guys at the beginning of the year that might be doing one thing, and by the end of the year, they're a completely different guy. And, whether that's hitting, pitching, role, whatever it is. So it just gives those guys an opportunity to stand out. And it's just, there's no replacement for getting out and seeing guys and stuff. And I was writing up one of my columns that I'm going to publish soon. And it's kind of a reminder that the schedule slowed down some, because we were hammering out a bunch of games so quick with the tournaments and everything else. It was some weeks you saw nearly 10 games, and now it's just a district schedule. You don't see as much. You kind of get a little more time to breathe and bear down on games and guys and everything else. But still a lot of baseball play. I was looking at the schedules, and still a few weeks left in district, and before we get to May and playoffs, and playoffs we know can go a long way as well. So hopefully some more guys grab our attention as we go through this. And I'm excited tonight to go see a guy pitch that, hopefully the weather cooperates. It kind of made me nervous seeing some Houston schools move games to Monday. I was like, well, forecast doesn't look bad. I don't know why you're moving games to Monday already, but kind of made me nervous. But seeing a guy tonight, like, maybe the Houston area is Jack Livingstone, a guy in Zach Royce who's really throwing the ball well and really throwing the ball hard. Could be a guy that's making that big senior jump and might be a guy that we consider for 55 status. But yeah, it's trying to shake the FOMO vibes when you get them and just realize that, hey, there's going to be good stuff going on elsewhere. But chances are the game you show up to is going to be good. Although I had a pretty rough streak when I went and saw Summer Creek beat Atascocita 16-3, and then Harlan beat Brennan 22-1. So hopefully a little better luck this week.
Yeah. Well, what else you got? Where you're going this week other than tonight?
Let me see. Where was I going? Oh, Brandon Arvidsson later this week. On Thursday, because nobody plays on Good Friday. At least I don't think anybody plays on Good Friday.
There's a few up here that do. So
yeah, I couldn't find any of them, but yeah, I hadn't seen him pitch yet this year. Just the way the schedule kept working, he was kind of getting moved around a little bit. And I saw him with the Dodger scout team in the fall. I saw him in the summer when he really took off. So and Dripping Springs has got some guys too. The Tracy kid, the freshman outfielder, that's been thrown out the bullpen some. His guy looks like he could be a really big time player. But yeah, and Alamo Heights, who I haven't seen. Unfortunately, I don't think Edward Hart's pitching that game, but they're always a really competitive team in that area. So who knows what might stumble on there. But it'd be good to get my first pitching look this spring at Brandon Arvidsson, a guy I really, really liked in the summer and the fall. As well, a Texas A&M signee that I think still has some scouting attention. I think there's some guys that are definitely keeping some tabs on him to see how he finishes up the season.
Yeah. What any college thoughts, MLB thoughts, Easter plans?
No Easter plans. We're actually getting delivered either Friday or Saturday. Our tavern to go is being delivered. So we for the longest time, I think during the pandemic, we all spent so much time in our house that you kind of think of ways to like add something to your house that kind of makes it feel different than just like sitting in your house. So we wanted like a covered patio or something, but like the prices of that stuff in Austin are just outrageous. There's simply the demand is so much more than the supply. And so it's just allowed these guys to just jack up the prices. And it's like, well, if you don't want to pay it, I'll find somebody that will. And comparing that to like Houston growing up, I feel like I could throw a rock and somebody would like come do a covered patio at a very reasonable price. Here it's like $30,000. And it's like, come on. So I was looking through and my wife made the mistake of showing me like these like taverns that like people kind of turn into like a pub shed type thing. There's this place called Taverns to Go, and they just make these wooden like bar structures. That's all they do, and they're based out of New Jersey. And I found them on Instagram. It's like, oh my gosh, these are incredible. They're like 8x5 or 8x10, and they're wood, and like people decorate them and hang TVs in there and everything else. Like, oh, this is exactly what I want. But they didn't ship to Texas. I was like, oh, that's a bummer. Well, in January they started shipping to Texas because they just had so much demand. And they're like, I guess they basically make a bunch and they store them in states. And then when they have enough people that buy them in that state, they drive down and they come to your house and they set it up for you. And it's a really reasonable price for what you get. Like we got an 8x5 one. So that's coming in either Friday or Saturday, and got to start figuring out what I want to do with that. We got to stain it, got to paint it, got to get in a TV mount, going to have a cheap TV out there and stuff like that. So there could be some. Jack has multiple Easter egg hunts in the same day this weekend. So he's not really interested in actually hunting the eggs. He kind of just goes and plays and does his thing, but that'll be fun as well. But yeah, looking forward to getting the tavern to go. Got the patio laid down in the back, ready to rock. So we can put that thing on there and be great for the Major League Baseball summer and stuff like that. Although it's gonna be a little hot out there, I'm gonna have to install a fan, but that'll be fun. But Yeah, I mean, Major League Baseball. I mean, it's been exciting. It's been addicting. Pitchers have been not quite as good for me in fantasy terms. A lot of short starts, not of effective starts, but it's been fun to watch a bunch of guys. Like, I don't know if you've caught any of Byron Buxton recently, but he hit that ball the other day that was 101 up out of the strike zone, and he hit it out into the second deck in Minnesota. So it's like, I don't understand how you could do something like that, but it's been a lot of exciting performances so far. I didn't really pay much attention to the college stuff this weekend. I was so dialed into what was going on with Major League Baseball and the lineups. Like, if you play fantasy like this time of year, paying attention to who's actually in the lineup and where they're hitting, and are they getting platooned and all that sort of thing. Like, it's a big time to kind of figure out what managers think of guys. Like, I was paying close attention to what was happening in Toronto with Kevin Biggio, and he started the season a platoon, but he got subbed out mid-game twice. And now he's not even starting against righties anymore. It's like, well, got to cut that guy loose and figure out someone else. Goodbye. But yeah, I've watched a ton. I've been like writing and watching Major League Baseball in the corner and just bouncing back and forth.
Yeah, going back to the Easter egg. So our HOA sent out this thing that was like, hey, like we will hide eggs in your yard for you if you fill out this form and whatever. And so, but it was for, I guess, Saturday morning. So they told you that they would either hide the eggs this past Friday night or Saturday morning. And I just completely forgot that we had done that. And I got home from the game on Friday night, and there's all these, like, I was like, what is that? And all these little eggs all scattered all over our front yard. And
already? Like, so like, is he gonna see him already?
Oh, no. Yeah. He saw him the first time he came out of the door. Okay. Like, it was last Saturday, but I was really proud of him because first he went and got all his eggs, and we had to open them and all that first thing Saturday morning. But then I was really proud of him because later in the day we were walking the dogs, and our neighbors, they had eggs scattered all over their yard. And like, he was like, kind of like, he was like, kind of like trying to walk straight, but look at the eggs. And I was like, no, buddy, those aren't ours. And he let him go. So I couldn't believe it, first of all, but he let him go. But it was funny to watch because he wanted to go grab those eggs so bad. And I just, especially with all the doorbell cameras out and about now, like, you're not going to get away with that anymore.
No,
But then, on Sunday we had his second birthday party and had some neighbors and some family over. And
as you can see behind me, your house probably is like mine, in that there are just boxes of toys and everything else. Just nowhere to put them.
You're one step ahead of me because I haven't. The pile that we made when he opened them downstairs is still where it was on Sunday.
So was he interested in opening them?
Oh yeah, like this is the first time he was like really into ripping the paper open and stuff.
Jack wasn't really that in. He just kept wanting to play, but he is like, his favorite toy that he got is it's a kid's like Dyson handheld vacuum cleaner.
Oh yeah, we have 3 of those. We have 3 of those.
He loves going around the house and like, this is great. You like cleaning? Yeah. This is promising moving ahead. But like, it's amazing, those toys though. You can turn it on and it starts sounding like a vacuum.
Some of them work. Like some of the mini Dysons like will actually work. So we have one upstairs that he pushes around that he loves. And like Mary has to be very picky about when she vacuums, like for real, because there is nothing, like, he will lose his mind if she tries to vacuum without him and he sees it. And so it's just never something you thought you'd have to plan around, but we have to now. And we, like we were talking about earlier, you can tell the people giving gifts to little kids that have had kids or that don't have kids, because people that have kids or currently like young kids, they understand the curse of the big gift.
Yeah.
Right. The monster gifts. But we have some friends that don't have kids yet and grandparents that gave us gifts that, like, I mean, I can hardly navigate downstairs because he got a scooter, a tricycle, a train, and a plane.
Oh my god!
And they're all big enough for him to like literally get on top and ride around. So like, it's tough, like we're running out of space. And I thought when we moved up here that we upgraded like 1,000 square feet, and we're filling it pretty fast. And
yeah,
it's all toys.
we're going through we've in our, like, months ago, we mapped out what we wanted to do for the house to prep for the second one, which is like, that clock is ticking fast. Just had that 3D appointment the other day, and it's like, oh boy, it's coming quick. We haven't really done much of it, but it's just like all this stuff comes in. It's like, oh my gosh, where we're going to put all this stuff and get organized and everything else. And it's like, who knows? I might be sleeping in my tavern to go. Like, that just might have to be what happens, is I have to go move out to the backyard with that.
Either intentionally or unintentionally.
Yeah. But yeah, it's fun to see what they're interested in right now and everything else, and kind of what toys they're into and what they get. But it's like, I joked with the parents that, like, Jack, like, they got party favors, and one of the party favors was a train whistle because he had a train theme. Ooh, so I was like, haha, yeah, your kid's taking this home is going to make a lot of noise with your train whistle. Like, my nephew got a gift from somebody that was like a wheelbarrow. Like, you had to, like, it was like a fancy one, but like it took so long to put together. My poor brother-in-law was shaking his head like, I can't wait to get that family's kid something that takes hours,
75 parts.
Yeah, like returning the favor. And for stuff like that, it's I was putting together a little Tykes house. I actually had the same house when I was little this weekend. Unfortunately, it didn't take too long, but like that red and yellow coupe car, that classic car, it took me like 4 hours to put together at one point. It's like, man, now
those are,
it's like, now I know, like, growing up, like what my dad kind of went through putting all this stuff together and everything else. It's like it takes a lot of time, and sitting there on YouTube with my phone, kind of going back and forth with the clips to go, all right, I gotta put this piece here and this piece here and this piece here and that sort of thing. But it's fun to see them get a kick out of it and what they're interested in right now and stuff like that. And like, Jack is big into wanting to drive the car. Whenever we park at home, he says drives, and we put him in the front seat and he gets the wheel. So we got him a little handheld steering wheel type thing and stuff like that. It's amazing. They've got a toy for everything. If they're interested in cleaning, vacuum cleaners, steering wheels, like, they got all sorts of stuff. So we're just trying to entertain them that way, and hopefully he gets a little bit more independent, because once Sissy Lucy arrives, hopefully he's able to handle entertaining himself a little bit more. But it's I can't believe we've done 2 years. We survived 2 years of being a dad, which 2 pandemic years too. And I don't know, like you, but like, I cannot believe my son is 2 already. Like, cannot believe it. Who is it that said the days are long but the years are fast? And that's a great way to put it from the parenting level. So exciting times there. But a lot of baseball going on. College ranks, like, I still can't believe that Tennessee has only lost 1 game all year. I mean, what a season they're having. And a lot of usual suspects at the top of the D1 baseball top 25. Texas got a big series win against TCU after that Oklahoma series win, and man, the job Pete Hansen did. Arkansas, Oklahoma State, Texas Tech, a lot of usual suspects up there in the top part of the list. But so many Texas teams: Dallas Baptist, Texas State. Just the health of the baseball in the area right now. Even I know TCU dropped out of top 25, but I think that's a team that's going to compete in the Big 12 all season. The health of baseball in this area, as we always say, is in really, really good shape from the college level down to the JUCO level, and then we're seeing at the high school level as well.
Yeah, there's some interesting box scores I saw. It's starting to level out a little bit, like you said. The teams that most people thought were going to be good are proving it. Just those rosters that are deeper now.
This is when your depth has got to show up.
Yeah. So that, like, the teams like we're talking about are we're the benefactors of a lot of, portal activity and stuff like that. And I think some of those guys, I don't think people understand how difficult that can be. Moving from a Power 5 school to another one can be tough. There's, different expectations. There's a lot going on, and it's not always a seamless transition, but I think you're starting to see some of those type of guys settle in, and, it's been good for a lot of these schools. I mean, like one of the untraditional ones, like you mentioned, Texas State, they're an old roster, and it shows. I think they ended up losing this past weekend, but they've been really, really good. And it's fun to watch those guys play, because as we start to talk to these guys and get a feel for what type of guys they're recruiting and what their roster construction's like, you get to see some patterns. And it's fun because we talked to Coach Blakely down at friend of the pod, talked to him for some of the recruiting series, and man, like a lot of the stuff that he forecasted for their team has played out.
Yeah.
And it's cool to see that. It's just, we know how hard those guys work, and some of those recruiting coordinators, it's a tough job now.
Yeah, putting a roster together is tough. Yeah.
It's not the same job it was a decade ago.
Right.
I mean, you're, at any given time, if you're recruiting kids that are freshmen and sophomores, I mean, you're almost responsible for 8+ years worth of kids.
Crazy. Yeah.
It's wild.
Crazy.
It's wild to think of. And, I think some of these teams are starting to really utilize staff members to monitor the portal.
Yeah.
You almost have to.
Absolutely. You have to. Yeah.
And it's going to be interesting as it continues to play out, to see if it slows down some of the early recruiting in high school for, it's never going to end it, but if it slows it down some, people will start saving portal spots for the summer. I mean, I think there's a mix and a balance of it that you probably would prefer if all the coaches were asked, but it's wild to see, and it's interesting to see play out, but just something to watch as we kind of move forward.
Yeah. Hopefully it slows that stuff down, but yeah, it's tough for those programs to turn down some of those commitments. Like when Texas Tech got Cason Cunningham in the 2025 class, I was like, yep. Yeah, that guy looks like he's going to be one of the best hitters in the state for his class. Before we wrap up here, I'll leave you with two baseball things. Have you seen what Stephen Kwan is doing? Speaking of college guys, Oregon State standout. Like him and Nick Madrigal were on. Like, imagine pitching to those guys in college, just like
Darwin Barney. Like, I mean,
yeah, like the low strikeout, outstanding on base and contact guys. Like Stephen Kwan hasn't swung and missed yet. Keep in mind, this is his debut season. He was never played in the MLB level before this year. Small sample size, only 19 plate appearances, but 789 on base percentage and 692 average. That's pretty good for a debut. Like,
I think he reached base 15 times in his first 4 games.
Yeah. 15. That's nuts. Like and did you see the Rory Sasaki game, the 20-year-old from Japan?
I saw your tweets about it.
So
that's
he threw 102 pitch perfect game with 19 strikeouts. And somebody asked, is this the best pitching performance of all time? Like, and it's a Japanese league. I know it's not Major League Baseball, but I'm trying to think, like,
that might be harder though. That might be harder because they typically
don't strike out as much.
Exactly.
Yeah, they don't strike out as much. There's, they put the ball in play a lot. And I was like, 19 strikeouts, perfect game, but the efficiency to only throw 102 pitches despite striking out 19 guys. He's like, if you're a baseball fan and just have some free time, go watch video of that, but just watch some video on him. Like, he can bump it over 100. He throws a nasty splitter. Like, his stuff is phenomenal. I'm sure there's just a point in time before he comes over to stateside, but just, you know, he's one of the best pitching talents on the planet, regardless of league, country, whatever. And cool to see that. Also cool to see Seiya Suzuki hit a bomb for the Cubs. And he's only chased, I think, one pitch and swung and missed once so far. So we always talk about, hey, how do these guys' skills translate, you know, the different pitching and velocity and stuff like that? Well, he faced Corbin Burns, Brandon Woodruff, and Freddie Peralta, and more than held his own there. So that's going to be exciting, the guy to follow with the Cubs. But that's you know, some exciting guys to keep tabs on and things like that. There's just so much baseball going on. As you can tell, I'm definitely excited, and we'll see how Bryce Elder does in his debut tonight for the Atlanta Braves. Friends of the podcast are doing big things, and we appreciate them joining, and we appreciate all of y'all for listening. This is episode 56. We're going to cross the 17,000 download mark today. So thanks for tuning in. And if you're listening to this on Apple Podcasts, it'd be nice if you could leave us a rating and review. We're on Apple Podcasts. We've got a podcast tab at 5tool.org. You know, we're posting these on YouTube, the video versions, Facebook, Twitter. You know, we've got 5-Tool coverage all over the place: Instagram, TikTok, Twitter. Just we're everywhere. Just make sure you're following us to keep up to date with all these great performances that we're seeing across the state and all these games that we're at. I mean, our video team is all over the place. Drew and I are all over the place, trying to provide you the best coverage we can of all the great high school talent in the state of Texas, and even beyond too. We've got some great things going on in Arizona, California as well. So make sure you're following all the 5-Tool stuff. But for Drew Bishop, I'm Dustin Mckennis. Thanks for tuning in to episode 56 of the 5-Tool Baseball Podcast. We hope you have a great week. Until we talk to y'all next time, take care.